Hi, good evening, traders. This is Krishna Joshi here with 7 Points Capital, bringing you today's trader takeaways. Uh, Pretty nice, decent bounce in SPY, bounced back about 3.5 points, and so that's good. The tone of the president slightly changed, which kind of helped the markets. We did have a few long setups in SPY, Roku, BYND, uh, Uber, which was down 10% SSR yesterday, finished up pretty well, up about 8%. BYND finished up about 15%. So overall, good pullback in the markets. Not the strongest finish. We didn't finish in the top 10 percentile in terms of the day's range, but nonetheless, we finished on a decent positive note. For me personally, I was looking at a few earnings names. I was looking at STNE, which was recently in the news. Warren Buffett has a stake in the company. I was looking at TME, which is a recent IPO as well. I traded this one last quarter on the last earnings. So that was the reason for me to watch TME as well. And other than that, I was looking at a few day two plays, which were TEVA, ENDP. And I was looking at, so my best stock was TRXE, and then ENDP, a couple of earnings name, which was CYBR and Take-Two, which is the game in the same field as Electronic Arts and Activision. So let's jump into individual names. Um, Starting off with my worst stock, which was the headache of the day, was TME. So TME, I did start a short position early on in the day. Got a decent wash, covered most of it, and then we got a nice V bottom, and pretty much like on the remaining of the position, I ended up losing on it a little bit. But since this reversal was pretty sharp, I did start looking at long setups. So once I saw that 60s were kind of holding, so I did put on a long versus 61. We still had some downside left. Just left it alone. The offer is still chasing it down. So there were a couple of spots where I felt like the offer is getting chipped away a little bit. So I started building a long position and then ended up going long finally here. I did want this to break up. So again on the wedge, I was long bias. I was buying all of this 62, 65, 67. Got stopped out just below 60. And once again, what we got was an abrupt V bottom, and we just sort of pulled back and pushed up. Did end up buying through the VWAP just a little bit, kind of like a continuation setup for me. Um, and ever since then, all of these were like long setups for me. Looking at these dips, trying to buy them out. So instead of buying the breakout here, as you can see, it does want to break out, sets up like a long setup, and then just absolutely just collapses on you. Uh, so that was one thing that I was keeping in mind, that instead of buying this breakout, let's look at it on the way down. Let's scoop it up as it sort of tries to curl up. So gave me an opportunity to do that here once, did that here twice, and then finally broke out. Wasn't really long a whole lot, but I did end up buying 92s here. Made a new high, broke the 15. So 15 was the high of the day, which we broke that, made a new high by a little bit. And as we broke down into the 95, same setup again. And as the day progressed, I was able to sort of size up in this because the range was kind of narrow. The ATR was getting narrower. So typical SSR setup for me at the close is giving myself a tighter stop, but being able to do much more size in that. But TME did end up taking like a couple of nasty hits on it, so not my best stock on the day. Another loser on the day for me was STNE. What I did do here was I was buying against the 50, which was soaking everything, more like a bouncing ball setup. Did want to break. Um, the only problem here was getting slipped. My stop here was 37. I didn't get out at 37. I couldn't get out at 37. Ended up getting 25, 27 on most of it. So did take like 1.8 hour loss instead of 1 hour that I had in mind. But nonetheless, I did like the setup. I did build a position at 51. We saw 67, 68. I wasn't really looking at trimming any. In fact, I added more, half of what I had. And again, we saw like in the low 60s, and coming back. So the longer, the more frequently it kept coming back to 50, I started not liking or disliking the trade even more. And finally, we just broke. But what I did do was on the pullback, so support becomes resistance. 50 is not supposed to. Now 50 shouldn't really break on the upside. But I did get in here with the stop just above 70 for a feeler position. As soon as I saw the 50s are holding, I quickly gave it a tighter stop, added more position, and covered everything in the 27, 17 and 27.20 area. So this is where I ended up trimming just before, just ahead of this previous low that we made. Did set up on the short side, but at this point, I felt like there's not enough. It was more like a range bound trade. I felt like late in the day it might not really break out as much. So I left the stock alone, found a really easy setup midday. So I started watching TRXE. I've been watching for, this is the third day I've been watching it. Big gap down on earnings. Day two was also SSR, sold off right at the open. And we finished pretty strong, decent yesterday. And today again was SSR because yesterday it hit 10% right off the open. And today we saw a nice squeeze, wasn't involved on the long side, had it up on one of my charts at the top left corner, not really paying attention to it. But the longer it kept going sideways, the more confident I felt about it because the offer was getting thicker at 44, and I was able to get mids for as much size as I wanted. I had to sit patiently on it, but I was able to get it, build a decent position here, and I covered pretty much everything ahead of this 35, which was a big bid. This was my price target actually when I got in. We discussed this trade on the desk. 35 was a big bid that I saw, and this was the price target in mind. Even if you look at it, I wasn't really looking and saying that the stock should break 30, make a new low on the day. That wasn't really the idea. The first time the stock really stopped and halted was at 140. The offers really came in, kept pushing it down. So there wasn't really any reason for me to get out of the trade. But as 135s kept holding, I ended up buying 136, flipped up, sold most of it at 137 because we were pretty much at 358, 359, didn't want to get stuck in a less liquid stock. We don't really know how it opens up tomorrow. So ended up selling pretty much everything at 37, 36 half as we were approaching the close. So easiest trade on the day for me was TRXE. The other one was ENDP. I ended up buying 74, 75, which was on this one. So I ended up buying the breakout of 74, 75. SSR day two on this, the drug pricing, the lawsuit which was filed against them. So all of these stocks that gapped down 10%. What I do like about this is whenever news like this hits, there's more than one drug company which is involved, right? So there's ENDP and there's TEBA, which was again SSR yesterday. Then there was MYL, which was Mylan. So all of these generic drug makers are going to be in news, and there was this LCI. So if I'm trading ENDP, then I'm definitely looking at the more liquid ones, which is Teva and Mylan. And Teva had a pretty good open today. Look at this. So it opened around 12, opened pretty much well above the 12, which was holding yesterday. We did a nice over under 12 yesterday. And today we opened pretty strong, much higher above that. And we pushed into 1250, 1260 area, right? That momentum sort of continued in ENDP, and that is what I was looking at. I was looking at building a decent position in this because liquidity was pretty good. And the offers were definitely there. Every 5 cents you could feel like the offers were there. 81 was another level. So I ended up taking just ahead of 79, 79 half, 80. Ended up buying 80 again, and it squeezed into 82 half, 82. Sold off 82. And because it's SSR, I tried getting short. No shares to short. Tried some here. Hardly any. Couldn't really build a position on the short side here. And in the end, what I did do was ended up buying 64, 65. Got a quick scalp into 70 actually did that twice. Got a quick scalp here, squeezed into 68, got a nice long again. So here the idea of buying is I'm going long versus an offer, which is sort of chasing it down. So let's hypothetically take this situation. 70 is a big offer trying to push it down. It follows it down to 69 offer, 68 offer, 67. But as it keeps coming down 1 cent, 1 penny at a time, it's getting slightly chipped away. And it's meeting a point where the path of least resistance now is on the upside, and the buyers are in control. They're meeting at a price point where the buyers are much more comfortable taking 64, 65 offer versus at 670, they're not really able to take out the 25K offer. So that's something that I really look at, watching the level 2 really closely. And so ENDP was my other good stock on the day. I did end up trading a couple of earnings name, which were TTWO. TTWO started off with a short position right around 101.50. We did over under 100, so I ended up taking some right in here. Got flat, actually ended up buying the breakout of 101, sold into 103, and I was done with this stock by then. Coming in after hours was pretty wild in this one, so I was hoping like a similar range on the day as well. We didn't really get that, but I was just taking it one setup at a time. I was really flexible, jumping on from the short to the long. We saw over under 100, put in like a slightly higher low, didn't really stay much below 100, and which was my sign to go long. And the other one was CYBR. So CYBR just came down, just dropped right off the open, started grinding up gradually, and once it gave me this wedge breakdown, ended up getting short. I didn't get the best execution. I think I got 24.30 on this, 24.30 right around here, but that was decent follow through. So I ended up taking just before 122. So I ended up getting a little more than 2 points on CYBR. Didn't really re-attack it. Was looking at it over here, but didn't really get involved. So overall, a decent day, decent range on SPY as well. I've been staying away from a lot of swing positions because SPYs are gapping up or down a couple of points at least. UVXY and the VIX is gapping up or down a couple of points. So that's it from me for today, guys. Did trade quite a few other names, but if you have any questions, feel free to message us on Twitter. And this is Krishna Joshi with 7 Points Capital. Thanks for watching.